My name is Lauren Bennett. I'm 32 years old. For as long as I can remember, my younger sister, Haley, has always managed to take what belonged to me. It started small. My favorite stuffed rabbit when we were kids, clothes from my closet in high school, even the spotlight at my own graduation dinner. But nothing could have prepared me for what she took at my birthday dinner last month. Standing proudly in front of our parents and my husband, Daniel, she announced her pregnancy and named him as the father. As I sat there, feeling my world fracture beneath me, I knew they had no idea I was hiding something too, something that would destroy their carefully constructed illusion forever. Growing up in our charming home in Berkeley, California, was complicated from the moment Haley was born, when I was 4. My parents, Sharon and Edward Bennett, adored her openly and with astonishing favoritism. Haley received prettier dresses, bigger birthday parties, and more enthusiastic praise. Whenever I achieved something remarkable, honor roll, student council president, art awards, my accomplishments were acknowledged politely but briefly. Haley, however, could merely scribble something in crayon and earn endless applause from my mother. "Look at her creativity," my mom would gush, while my straight-A report cards elicited nothing more than a quick nod and, "Good job, Lauren." My father coached Haley's soccer team but somehow never found time for my piano recitals. These small, persistent slights piled up like bricks in a wall of resentment, a barrier I desperately pretended wasn't there. My parents loved me, I know, but their love was quiet, steady, and overshadowed by Haley's radiant charm. Haley mastered the art of envy early on. Anything I treasured, she coveted. The necklace I saved months for would vanish, only to reappear on her neck days later. When I earned the lead role in our high school musical, Haley convinced our parents to enroll her in prestigious singing lessons, demanding attention even on my night to shine. The family mantra became, "Why can't you just share with Haley?" Always directed at me, never at her. Gradually, I learned to fiercely guard what mattered, protecting my dreams and emotions behind walls of vigilance. College was my escape. I chose a school in New York, 3,000 miles away from Haley's shadow, allowing myself the space to finally blossom. Those years were transformative. I discovered my passion for creative design, met friends who appreciated me for who I was, and rebuilt my sense of self-worth away from the relentless comparisons of my childhood. For a brief, precious moment, I thought I'd left Haley's shadow behind forever. But life, I'd soon discover, had other plans. College life in New York City was everything I'd dreamed of, and more. For the first time, I existed beyond Haley's shadow, crafting my identity free from constant comparison. I immersed myself in the vibrant culture, thrived academically, and quickly fell in love with the energy of the city. At 22, I secured a coveted internship at a renowned advertising agency, igniting my passion for storytelling and visual design. Then, during my senior year, at a gallery exhibit showcasing local artists, I met Daniel Carter. I was absorbed in a striking abstract painting when a gentle voice interrupted my thoughts. "Beautiful, isn't it?" he asked, standing casually beside me, eyes thoughtfully studying the canvas. I turned, startled yet captivated by his warm, inviting smile and earnest brown eyes. "Yes," I replied softly. "I feel like I've been staring at it forever, trying to unravel what it's saying." Daniel chuckled, his laugh easy and genuine. "That's exactly why I love art. It speaks differently to everyone." We spent the rest of that evening wandering the gallery, discussing art, life, and aspirations, losing track of time until the exhibit closed and we reluctantly parted ways. Daniel was an architect, passionate about designing spaces that inspired connection and joy. He embodied qualities I'd longed for: intelligence, kindness, quiet strength. Our relationship blossomed effortlessly, rooted in mutual respect and shared dreams. He attended my graduation ceremony, applauding loudly, making my heart swell with pride. Afterward, he took my hands, looked deeply into my eyes, and whispered, "You amaze me, Lauren." Every day. After graduation, Daniel proposed relocating to San Francisco, his hometown, promising a fresh start together. With my heart full and future bright, I agreed. San Francisco quickly became our city, a place where our dreams intertwined naturally. Daniel landed a prestigious position at a leading architecture firm, while I swiftly climbed the ranks at an innovative advertising agency downtown, becoming a creative director by 30. Our wedding day was perfect, intimate yet beautiful, overlooking the Pacific Ocean as golden sunlight illuminated the vows we exchanged. Haley, of course, attended, making subtle attempts to attract attention, but I refused to let her overshadow my joy. Daniel gently squeezed my hand, reassuring me, "She's jealous because she sees how incredible you are." The first few years of our marriage passed blissfully. We built a home filled with laughter, ambitious plans, and tender moments. Daniel was supportive, attentive, and passionate, but slowly, subtle changes began to appear, unsettling me. He grew increasingly absorbed by work, often returning home after midnight, exhausted and distant. His phone became a guarded secret, constantly face down, passwords abruptly changed. At first, I rationalized these changes as stress, temporary pressures of his projects. But late at night, a quiet unease would creep in, whispering doubts into my heart. Occasionally, I'd catch an unfamiliar perfume lingering on his shirt collars, see him tense when his phone buzzed. Each incident on its own felt minor, but together they wove a tapestry of suspicion. Still, I tried convincing myself it was nothing, unaware of the devastating storm silently building in the shadows, preparing to shatter everything I'd worked so hard to protect. As months passed, the unsettling changes in Daniel became impossible to ignore. He withdrew more profoundly, offering vague excuses whenever I voiced concern. "Just work stress," he'd mumble quietly, avoiding my eyes. "Things will improve soon, Lauren. I promise." Yet they never did. His late nights became a disturbing norm, the space between us expanding until we felt like strangers sharing a home. Our intimacy dwindled, replaced by brief, mechanical interactions. Daniel flinched if I touched his shoulder unexpectedly, as if my affection had become intrusive rather than comforting. Unable to quiet my anxiety, I found myself searching for answers. One night, unable to sleep, I noticed Daniel's phone illuminating silently on the bedside table. My heart raced as I recognized Haley's name flashing across the screen. My pulse quickened, a nauseating dread settling in my stomach. Why would she text my husband at 2 a.m? When I asked Daniel casually the next day, he brushed it aside effortlessly. "Haley needed advice for a client event," he said, shrugging lightly, his voice convincingly casual. Yet something inside me shifted irreversibly, an unshakable suspicion I couldn't dismiss. Weeks later, I stumbled across an email while borrowing Daniel's laptop after mine abruptly crashed. My finger hovered over the subject line from Haley labeled "Last Night," my heartbeat echoing painfully in my ears. Trembling, I clicked open, and the words blurred as the brutal truth hit me. Haley's email was explicit, brazenly recounting their clandestine encounter. My chest tightened as reality crumbled around me, betrayal sharp and suffocating. Every suspicion, every fear, crystallized instantly. My husband, my Daniel, was sleeping with my sister. Sitting numbly in our bedroom, I struggled to steady my breathing. Grief tore through me, swiftly replaced by a fierce, unfamiliar resolve. For once, Haley wouldn't simply take something from me without consequence. This time, I'd be prepared. Over the following weeks, I meticulously gathered evidence, saving incriminating texts, photos, and emails. My heart broke repeatedly, each discovery reopening fresh wounds, yet I persisted. Quietly, I hired Amanda Rollins, a highly respected divorce attorney renowned for protecting her clients. She advised patience, precision, and absolute secrecy until every piece was in place. Despite internal agony, I maintained an outward appearance of normalcy. I smiled at dinners with Daniel, laughed at my parents' anecdotes, even answered Haley's casual texts, masking pain with careful detachment. In private, however, I braced myself, rehearsing words I'd someday confront them both with, once the timing was exactly right. My birthday approached swiftly, a dinner planned by my parents to celebrate my 32nd year. Daniel promised he'd be there early, attentive and charming like the man I'd married. I played along, knowing full well that the evening would be anything but ordinary. Soon the painful charade would shatter completely, and when it did, I'd finally reclaim control. The night of my birthday dinner arrived with an unsettling calm. I wore the emerald green dress Daniel once claimed made my eyes look like stained glass, hoping for no reason other than symbolism. I wanted to walk into that restaurant not as the broken wife I had been in secret for months, but as the woman who knew everything and was no longer afraid. My parents had chosen DeLuca's, a refined Italian bistro nestled in the heart of San Francisco. The kind of place where candles flickered in low light and everything smelled faintly of rosemary and fresh bread. I arrived alone. Daniel had texted 10 minutes earlier to say a last-minute client call would delay him. Convenient. "Lauren," my mother called as I walked in. She stood and gave me a brief kiss on the cheek, inspecting my outfit with a practiced eye. "You look lovely, though your hair is a little flat on one side." I smiled politely. "Thanks, Mom." My father nodded from across the table. "Happy birthday, sweetheart. Hope you brought your appetite." I did. I sat between them, trying not to glance too often toward the entrance. There were no messages from Daniel or Haley, but I didn't have to wait long. 20 minutes later, a wave of laughter rose from the restaurant entrance. Haley had arrived. She strolled in confidently, wearing a form-fitting crimson dress that drew more eyes than the dessert cart, and walking beside her, Daniel, my husband. His hand brushed the small of her back as they made their way toward our table. I gripped the edge of my napkin so tightly it left creases in my skin. "We ran into each other in the parking lot," Haley said brightly, kissing my cheek like nothing was amiss. "So we came in together. Funny coincidence, huh?" Daniel avoided my gaze as he slid into the seat beside me. "Happy birthday, Lauren," he said quietly. "Sorry I'm late." "No problem," I replied coolly, keeping my voice light. "I'm just glad everyone's here now." Dinner began awkwardly. My parents chatted about their recent wine tour in Napa. Haley chimed in with a story about planning a celebrity's engagement party, and Daniel said little, pushing pasta around his plate. Occasionally, his knee brushed mine under the table, but it felt mechanical, like a ghost of our past intimacy. After the main course, the waiter brought out a small chocolate tart topped with a candle. As he lit it, my father raised his glass. "To Lauren, our steady, brilliant daughter. We're proud of all you've built." Steady, a compliment wrapped in caution tape. I forced a smile. Before anyone could sing, Haley suddenly stood. "I have a little surprise of my own," she said, placing one manicured hand on her stomach. "I wasn't going to say anything yet, but I'm pregnant." My mother gasped. My father blinked. I stared at her, waiting for the inevitable. "And the father," Haley continued, her voice practically trembling with triumph, "is Daniel." Gasps, stunned silence. Even the restaurant around us seemed to dim. Daniel's eyes stayed fixed on the tablecloth. My parents froze mid-toast. My heart beat like a drum in a cathedral. Haley smiled at me. "We're going to be a family, Lauren. I hope you can understand." Oh, I understood. Far more than they realized. And they were about to find out just how much. The silence around the table was deafening. My mother's eyes darted between Haley and Daniel, her mouth slightly open, struggling to form words. My father slowly set his wine glass down with trembling fingers, as if trying not to shatter it. Daniel hadn't moved. His shoulders were hunched, his gaze locked on a spot somewhere in the fibers of the white linen tablecloth. And Haley was radiant, like she'd just won something. Her hand rested protectively on her still flat stomach, her lips curled in satisfaction. She expected my collapse, my scene. She thought she had stolen my world. Instead, I straightened in my chair and reached for my glass of water. My hand trembled slightly, the only betrayal of the storm raging inside me. "You've certainly made this birthday unforgettable," I said calmly. Haley blinked, caught off guard. That wasn't in the script she'd written in her head. "I thought you deserved to know," she said, tone falsely sweet. "No more secrets, right?" "Oh, I agree completely," I replied, setting my glass down. "Which is why I think it's time I shared a few things too." Daniel looked up then. His face was pale, and for the first time that night, fear flickered behind his eyes. "I've known about the affair for 3 months," I said quietly, yet clearly. "I found your emails, Daniel. The ones you forgot to delete. The ones where you detailed just how much you enjoyed being with my sister in your office. After hours." Haley's smile faltered. Lauren, I also found the texts, I continued, my voice steel. And the photos. I hired a private investigator. His name is Marcus, works for a firm called North Bay Discreet. Very thorough. They've been documenting everything since March. My mother gasped. My father let out a low whistle and looked down at his plate, as if even the risotto had betrayed him. Daniel swallowed hard. You've been spying on me? You've been sleeping with my sister, I replied sharply. So, yes, I decided I should be informed about the man sharing my bed and the woman pretending to be family. Haley shifted uncomfortably. This doesn't change anything. I'm pregnant and That's actually the part I wanted to clarify. I reached into my purse and pulled out a neatly folded envelope. I placed it in the center of the table. Daniel stared at it like it was a grenade. That, I said, is a notarized document from Pacific Heights Urology, dated 2 years ago. Daniel underwent a bilateral vasectomy. We agreed we weren't ready for children. He never reversed it. And I have the signed post-op report to prove it. My mother covered her mouth. Haley stared at the paper, not touching it. You're lying, she said, though her voice had lost its earlier bite. He said, he never told me, because he didn't think you'd need to know, I said. Until now. Daniel leaned back in his chair, rubbing his eyes. It's true, he muttered. I didn't think it mattered. We were using protection. My voice cut through him. You didn't think she'd try to trap you with a pregnancy that couldn't possibly be yours? Haley's face turned ghost white. No, this can't be right. The dates, I tilted my head. So if it's not Daniel's, who is the father, Haley? Do you even know? The table fell silent once more, but this time the weight of shame no longer belonged to me. I sat back in my chair, lifted my fork, and took a slow, deliberate bite of the chocolate tart. It tasted bittersweet. Just like justice. Haley didn't answer. She just stared at the envelope like it might burst into flames. Her hands, once so confidently resting on her stomach, now clenched in her lap. Daniel looked like he might be sick. The mask had slipped from both their faces, leaving behind two people suddenly aware that their secret had never truly been theirs. I need some air, Haley whispered, grabbing her clutch and rushing toward the exit. Her heels clicked against the polished floor like gunshots in the quiet restaurant. Daniel hesitated, torn between following her or staying put. Go, I said, my tone clipped. You two deserve each other. He stood slowly and walked after her, shoulders sagging under the weight of exposed lies. For the first time in months, I didn't feel like the discarded one. I felt like the one in control. My parents sat frozen. My mother looked as though she might cry. My father cleared his throat. Lauren, I don't know what to say. There's nothing to say, I replied. You watched Haley take and take for years. You turned away, and now this is the result. My mother finally spoke, voice trembling. But you're okay? I looked her in the eye. No, but I will be. The waiter approached nervously with the check. I reached for it before anyone else could. Dinner's on me, I said. It's my birthday after all. They didn't argue. As I signed the bill and stood to leave, Daniel reappeared alone. His face was pale, his eyes pleading. She's gone, he said quietly. She got into her car and just drove off. I nodded once. Seems fitting. She was never one to stick around for consequences. He reached for my arm. Lauren, please. We need to talk. We're past talking, Daniel, I said. I'll have Amanda contact you. The divorce papers are ready. You'll be hearing from her tomorrow. He stepped back like I'd slapped him. I never meant for it to happen this way. You made 1,000 choices that led to this moment, I replied. Don't pretend it was an accident. Then I turned and walked out of the restaurant, head high, heart steady. Behind me, I left shattered illusions, broken bonds, and a family forced to reckon with its silence. Ahead of me was freedom. And for the first time in years, I was walking into it alone, but unafraid. The morning after my birthday dinner, I woke up in a hotel suite overlooking the Embarcadero. The city shimmered below, unaware of the storm that had cracked open inside my life the night before. I sipped coffee by the window, watching the sun creep over the Bay Bridge, and felt something surprising. Relief. I hadn't cried. Not once. Not after the dinner. Not during the quiet ride to the hotel. Not even while folding Daniel's last voicemail into the background noise of the night. I wasn't numb. I was free. At 9 a.m., I called Amanda Rollins. "File the papers," I said. "Are you sure?" she asked gently. "You have every legal advantage now. We can move fast." "I'm sure," I replied. "Let's move." Amanda worked swiftly. That afternoon, I met with a moving company and 2 close friends. While Daniel was at work, we entered our home and packed only what was mine: clothes, photo albums, family heirlooms, artwork I had created. I left the rest, including my wedding ring, on the dresser with a single note: "Amanda will be in touch." I moved into a sunlit apartment in Soma that I'd secretly leased the week before. It was modern, minimal, and entirely mine. Every surface felt like a clean slate. That first night, I stood barefoot in my empty living room and breathed in silence without tension. No lies beneath the walls. No lipstick on collars. Just peace. Daniel tried calling. He left messages that toggled between pleading and defensive. I made a mistake. "You didn't even give me a chance to explain." "You're just walking away from everything?" Yes, I was. Haley, too, tried to reach me. One message arrived with shaking words. "We need to talk. I didn't know. I swear, I didn't know he couldn't be the father." I didn't answer. What could she possibly say? Days passed. My parents checked in, awkwardly. My mother suggested family therapy. My father offered help with moving costs. I declined both. I needed distance, not solutions they were too late to offer. At work, I buried myself in projects. My team noticed the shift, but they didn't ask questions. Except for Sean Walker, my lead graphic designer, who quietly left a coffee on my desk one morning with a yellow sticky note that read, "Is still the strongest person in the room." I smiled. For the first time in weeks, it wasn't forced. My life had been dismantled piece by piece. But now I was rebuilding, not out of survival, but choice. Not to prove anything, but to finally breathe. And I wasn't going back. 1 year later, I stood in my new apartment, barefoot on the hardwood floors, sunlight streaming through the windows. The space no longer felt new. It felt like home. The walls were painted a deep, calming blue. My artwork hung proudly in the hallway. The air smelled like jasmine from the candle Sean had given me on my last birthday. I had just turned 33. The divorce was finalized 6 months ago. Daniel didn't contest it. Amanda's airtight documentation made it clear he had nothing to gain by fighting. He kept his shares in the firm. I kept everything that mattered: my peace, my dignity, my independence. He moved to Seattle not long after. I heard through mutual friends that he was dating someone younger. Another intern, maybe? I didn't care. He hadn't asked about me, or Haley, or the baby, because yes, Haley had the baby. A boy, named Mason. DNA tests confirmed what we already suspected. Daniel wasn't the father. The real father, a senior executive at her company, denied paternity until Haley threatened legal action. He eventually agreed to joint custody. Out of obligation, not affection. Haley reached out months ago with a letter. Handwritten, surprisingly thoughtful. She had started therapy. She wrote about the pressure to be noticed, to be adored, to outshine. "I thought if I could take what you had, maybe I'd feel more real," she confessed. But all I ever did was lose pieces of myself. I met Mason 2 weeks after he was born. He had Haley's eyes and our father's furrowed brow. When I held him, I felt something I hadn't expected: softness, hope. He was innocent in all of this. And strangely, holding him healed something that had long ached in me. Haley asked me to be his godmother. I said yes. It didn't mean everything was forgiven, but it meant I was open to something different. Sean and I had grown closer, slowly, carefully. No labels, no pressure, just something honest. He never asked me to be someone I wasn't. And for the first time in my adult life, I didn't feel like I was performing. As I stood in my kitchen, looking out at the skyline, I smiled. I had lost a marriage, a version of family, and a life I once clung to. But in its place, I'd found something far more valuable. Myself. And I would never lose her again.